Girls who are funneled into the juvenile justice system often have histories of trauma, including sexual abuse. According to a new report, nearly a third of girls in the system have been sexually abused, and in some states, the rate is far greater. Among the girls in South Carolina's juvenile justice system, 81% are survivors of sexual violence. In Oregon, 76% of the girls were sexually abused before the age of 13. And I want to make this clear. These are not the rates at which girls experience abuse while in the custody of the criminal justice system. What the report finds is that, quote, sexual abuse is one of the primary predictors of girls' entry into the juvenile justice system. The report by the Human Rights Project for Girls found that girls are often detained for exhibiting common reactions to trauma and abuse: drug and alcohol use, truancy, running away. In some cases, it is the abuse itself that lands the girls in court. In many states, underage girls who are forced into sex trafficking can be arrested on prostitution charges. Joining me now, Malik Saddah-Sar, who's Executive Director of Human Rights Project for Girls, one of the organizations behind this report, and the Reverend Vivian Nixon, Executive Director of College and Community Fellowship and co-founder of the Education Inside Out Coalition. And back with us is also Tom Segru, Professor, Social and Cultural Analysis and History at New York University. This report is both appalling and the least surprising thing that I've read all week. How are girls different for the reasons they end up in our system versus boys?
So there's been such remarkable work on the school to prison pipeline, which is really the boys' story. But when we look at the girls' story, it is the sexual abuse to prison pipeline. And that's because what plays out is that girls who are sexually victimized, who have trauma, instead of seeing them as the victims and survivors that they are criminalized. So this is the way that our girls are being criminalized, not because they're more violent, not because they're the new gang members, but because their experiences of being raped, of being abused, are seen through this lens of criminalization. And I think the point you make that is the most egregious is that a girl who is being forced to be trafficked, who is being bought and sold for sex, is arrested for prostitution. And that there's a racial dynamic here as well.
Okay, thank you. Because I just want to say there are some girls who we are able to see as victims and others who we have a much harder time seeing as victims. And I'm just wondering what might be the difference between those girls. Well, I wrote on the note here to myself, hint, hint, race.
Yes, race is a huge issue in this. And we see time and time again, especially with girls who grow up in poor communities of color, that the way they find acceptance and love and try to get past the trauma that they've experienced is to get involved with gangs and other activities. In other communities that are better resourced, they get therapy, they get all kinds of attention because they're seen as victims.
I want to be clear. Obviously, the re-victimization of young women and girls who experience sexual abuse is not racial in the sense that it exists everywhere. But the particular criminalization of it does feel to me like it is attached to this understanding of what we think black women's bodies are. So despite the fact that I'm turning away from the two women of color at the table,